Hey guys, it is Jordan Guest. Today we have a really special interview with Bronson Cordle. He is the CEO of Wholesale Gorilla, and they're just an app development company that's building apps on top of Shopify. And I wanted to have him on today to, one, talk us through just e-commerce in general, talk about what can be done on Shopify for an e-commerce business, and then also talk specifically about the different apps that are built on top of Shopify that solve solutions or solve problems, I guess, that for something that doesn't come out of the box of Shopify. So we just wanted to have him on. We've got some questions here. Hopefully this is helpful. And if you have any questions that we don't get to today, please drop them in the comments section and we will try to maybe do this again and address some of those questions. So Bronson, I'll let you just introduce yourself real quick. Give us a little background, I guess, of what you've done in the past, 2 years, 5 years, however far back you want to go, and just give us a little background.
Sure. Well, first of all, Jordan, thanks for having me on this. Really excited to talk about Shopify. It's just such a mover in the industry right now, just of e-commerce, of tech, of everything. So there's so much that we can say, and I'm excited to answer a few questions here. My background comes more on the, managerial and leadership side of things. I helped run a company for a couple of years, a small business based out of Louisville, Kentucky. From then, I started my own consultant agency that led me to doing some work for Wholesale Gorilla. And once I got to know the owner a little bit better, we just decided that it was going to be a great match for us to work together full time. So that's how I came to be involved with Wholesale Gorilla. The business itself is still pretty new. They started development back in 2013. Officially, they had an app launch around 2018. So it's still within the first 5 years. It's growing very rapidly. Just there's so much demand within Shopify. So
yeah, and I'm seeing that in CPA world as well. Traditionally you'd have a leased physical space, brick and mortar, and more, especially with what's going on in the past couple of years. More companies are either being forced to go online or they were already kind of moving in that direction. So cool. So I guess we can just kind of walk through some of these questions that we had talked about. So Bronson, when is Shopify the best solution for an e-commerce company? Because we know there are other solutions out there. If you're talking to someone who's considering different platforms, why would they go to Shopify over the other ones?
Yeah, sure. So I talked to my team about all these questions. So some of this I have stolen from them directly. I want to give them appropriate credit. But as we were talking to, I was talking to the CTO of the company, and she actually had her own small business for a while that did like different like art type things that made like little dogs for people. It's really cute. But anyways, she was basically saying like anytime that you're selling something that isn't custom, like specifically like one-on-one custom, then Shopify's the solution. Like they make it so easy, it's so affordable. There's really no barrier to entry. Most of the time you can really get a full out of the box, product for just their $30 a month charge. I think it's technically $29, but with that situation, it just makes it anytime that you can sell enough product in 1 month to make at least $30 profit, Shopify is really going to be the best fit for you.
Okay. And so that's monthly subscription, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I should like know that off the top of my head, but I want to say it's like $29.99 a month.
Well, I'm sure that, yeah. And I'm sure they change them every once in a while, but what are the even other, and we're talking specific, we're going to bounce back and forth today between retail and wholesale, just because I know so many of those of you who are out there who do e-commerce do both of those. But would you say that Shopify, and I'm gonna really try not to say Spotify.
So hard.
No. But you would say that Shopify is more, it just out of the box is more geared towards direct to customers, right? Not necessarily built out of the box for B2B, or they're both solutions out of the box. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say out of the box, it's for a B2C type business. They want you to, as a user, someone that has your Shopify store, to have the store, to be promoting it via in-person or online or social, so that you can sell to a customer base. Now, that being said, Shopify and other e-commerce platforms as well, but Shopify more than others right now, realize that, retail stores, they tend to have wholesale needs. So because of that, they've tried to put in more and more features as time's gone on to better support those small business owners.
Okay. Yeah, I know that's even something we've been working through with some clients that we do work on together, is just trying to find the best solution. So, okay, so walk us through just the normal solutions for a customer who wants to do retail and wholesale. Can you do all of it through Shopify, or is it really ultra dependent on the company? I mean, is there a specific solution that you and the team kind of go to, I guess, if someone comes to you and says, for example, I'm a coffee shop, I sell in person, I sell online retail to customers, but then I also sell to other coffee shops, hotels. Can that all be done on Shopify, or are there other tools needed to bring all that into one?
Yes, it can be done on Shopify, with the addition of an app or two, depending on what exactly you're going to accomplish. So, if you are looking for just that $29 a month fee with no additional apps, no additional settings, it doesn't handle it too well. You'd have to do some things manually. But I mean, there's just such a great just community of developers right now that understand small business, especially on Shopify over other e-commerce platforms that are constantly developing solutions for small business owners. Wholesale Gorilla is, I think, obviously one of the best solutions for people that are looking to do direct to consumer and have some options for wholesale, to use that app in addition to some of the other services you might use on Shopify. Yeah.
And just to get right into that with Wholesale Gorilla, I mean, Wholesale Gorilla, based on our previous conversations, it allows me to set up specific settings per customer, right? Whether that's a wholesale customer or a retail customer. So specifically, if it is a wholesale customer, I give them certain discounts, certain terms, things like that are built in. Whereas if you just had Shopify set up, you wouldn't be able to differentiate those different things, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, for the technical language, the customers would have a wholesale login that Wholesale Gorilla helps provide, and then they use a tagging system that allows certain things to happen with a customer during checkout. So, if there's a customer that they're a wholesaler for your store, you can use a certain tag that you completely make up. It could be 10% off or 50% off. That tag is associated with that customer, and then that customer gets to enjoy whatever discount is associated with that tag. So that's the basic of the technical aspect of it. But as far as the interface of it, the wholesale customer gets their own special login. They get to see different prices than other people would, or a regular retail customer would get to see. And it allows you to differentiate them from a regular retail customer or just any other retail customer. So they basically get to have a wholesale existence in addition to, or instead of a retail existence.
Okay. And then I guess one place where my mind goes is, how long is the setup? I assume it all depends on how many products you've got, how many different SKUs and all those things. But I mean, is this a pretty seamless process that can be imported from a CSV file, or are things when you're building on top, like with the app, is there a lot of setup that's associated with bringing in another app that sits on top of Shopify, or is a lot of that data already in Shopify and then it's just automatically pulled out through an API?
Yeah, it's really that latter part. Not so much dealing with an API, but just the app works in conjunction with what Shopify is already doing. So most of the apps are built in a way that they want to work with Shopify, and Shopify makes it really easy because they want other people to develop apps, so more people will use their service for that to work. But for example, as far as like, if a customer came to us and said, "Hey, we want your app on our store. Let's get it started." Usually, our install process is about 48 hours or less. So for us, it's like super easy. It's really built in. We want to make sure that there's no bugs, so that's why there's kind of a day or two there, so we can double check things with different quality teams. And then, you know, you're open to start introducing people to basically the wholesale side of your business. You send them some credentials so they can have an account, and then the app works in association with the pricing that's already on the products. So really, we don't deal too much with CSV. That actually kind of is like a weird technical nightmare. But with Shopify in particular, they have it where, you know, your app can work really well with things that everyone has already in their theme or on their store. So
Okay, cool. All right, I know another question I get often is about shipping and integrations with that. Just trying to know real time, what's the UPS rate, what's the USPS, FedEx. Do you have any, if there was a newer, you know, e-commerce business owner out there, do you have any points to suggest, you know, what you'd use for this shipping solution?
yeah,
with weights and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, this is something that we have to deal with a lot too. Just like our customers will be like, "Hey, what should we use for shipping?" And unfortunately, the answer is there's really not a good solution right now. Like, since all of, you know, UPS, FedEx, and, you know, USPS, they're all trying to compete for, you know, the most money. So they really don't work very well together, even though as business owners, we're trying to offer the best shipping solutions for our customers. So it's like a small business owner basically has to fight with UPS, USPS, and FedEx to try to get something to work. So that's the kind of the first disclaimer I'll put out there is there's not really one good fitting solution. But what I will say is I've tried a couple of different things and they work well in certain use cases. So we're based out of Louisville, so UPS has a huge hub here. It's often easier for Louisville businesses to get UPS reps to actually help the business out. So a lot of times I've suggested for small business owners to go ahead and try to ship as much through UPS as possible. So you have an account representative. It kind of goes around and works through UPS's system rather than trying to tackle it through a technical situation or product. So that's one route. I don't know how much longer that's going to be viable, just given the level that technology is advancing. As far as like software products, I've used both ShipStation and GoShippo. Those tend to work well for small businesses. They have pretty minimal fees associated with them. And oftentimes they'll be able to get you some sort of a negotiated rate. So as far as like small business trying to save any penny they can, GoShippo or ShipStation I've seen those work pretty well for other people. The last thing I'll say is it does often get brought up so often. Really redundant there. That it's something that behind the scenes our development team is trying to figure out, like, is there anything that we can do for small businesses? You know, these are the kind of questions where we see that it has such a need. We know Shopify's code so well. Is there anything that we can offer as a business that would better help small businesses that are going through the same issues as other small businesses that we could maybe solve on the development field? So
yeah, because it's definitely an issue. Like, but on the UPS side, does that integrate with Shopify, or is that something that takes place outside of Shopify and you'd have to have like a UPS? Because I mean, at the end of the day, you have to have someone come pick stuff up and then take it to like some kind of distribution center, whether it's FedEx or UPS, and then it gets sent out. So I guess, is there a way that you don't have to like double entry between Shopify and then another thing with UPS or FedEx telling them, hey, we've got X amount of product that needs to go at this date? Or have you seen it where there is no integration between those companies and the actual like POS backend system?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it right now is like Shopify or, you know, even Square can do this. Is you have an account with either UPS or FedEx or USPS or stamps.com, and there's an integration where you basically log in to those accounts through Square or Shopify. So that's the way that I see it works the best right now. Is, you know, that account knows that your Shopify store exists, but it's really not that seamless. You know, there's still some things that can go wrong. You still have a ton of shipping rules to deal with. It's not really fun as a small business person or owner that doesn't have a lot of time. You really have to put a lot of logic behind it, and there's not really a great solution. So yeah, sorry.
I think it's just something that everyone's dealing with. I mean, personally, I know because my dad works UPS, their business model, they're just trying to go after the biggest accounts possible and win those over against FedEx. And I'm sure FedEx is the same way. And small and even medium-sized businesses on the shipping solutions just get left behind. And so all I'd say, that's what I figured your answer would be, something to the effect of like, there's pros and cons to both. If you stick with the UPS, you get a dedicated representative, it sounds like, who at least knows your situation a little bit, and you have someone to call, but you're not necessarily getting that competition element of FedEx and UPS trying to fight over who can get the best rate that day. So, but if you use a ship station, it's more you're just kind of like in this ether of whatever their customer service looks like, but maybe you get a little bit better rate. Is that maybe a good summary?
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. I wouldn't add too much.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, let's move on to metrics. I know that that's something that most business owners are like, I started this because I created something or I specialize in something, but I'm not exactly sure what to look for to see if my business is doing well. But Shopify specifically has a pretty nice backend that shows analytics and some different measurements. So what are some different things that you go to time and time again to see how well a business is doing on Shopify?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll put a disclaimer on this at first and say, you know, every business is different, and you know, your business may or may not benefit from anything that I say. But a lot of the times, what I'm noticing on the analytics side is very product dependent. So, you know, I would say, you know, products that you can order more than once. So something that might be like a recharge or recurring delivery type product. You know, you mentioned coffee earlier. I think coffee is a good example where you have a subscription, or, you know, if there's something that has kind of like maybe a seasonality to it where, you know, people constantly want it. They want it in different colors. They want it maybe with a little bit different design. I think those companies in general perform the best on Shopify from my experience. And you can really use those metrics to help make decisions. And the metrics that I would focus on the most would probably be something to the effect of like, you know, your normal conversion rate. You know, if if you have an audience and you send out an email or run ads and you're sending people to your website and you notice that people are actually converting, it can help you make decisions on how much money you might want to spend, either for marketing or for how many emails you're sending out. So if you can kind of estimate, okay, if I have 1,000 visitors and I know 4% of those are going to convert and they're probably going to buy these items, then it helps you understand a little bit of like maybe what your ROI might be. So just to run through that, we could say like you have a $100 product, you're sending 200 people there, ta-da, you've just made $2,000. There's probably some cost of goods sold within that product. So then you can start to calculate, okay, here's the profit that I want to make. Here's maybe the amount of margin that I could put into marketing or advertising or getting more traffic. So the conversion is really important. Conversion value, I think, is somewhat important. If you have a large spectrum of, you might have some $10 items, you might have some $30 items, you might have some $75 or more items. I'm tending to see that, places that have $50 or more items that are more commonly sold than their other ones happen to perform a little bit better than other businesses. And then the last thing I'll say that I like to pay attention to is just like the lifetime value of the customer. And like at the end of the day, for me, like businesses exist to provide a good or a service to a community based on how much that community likes or needs that product. So, getting multiple orders from a customer, in my mind, just means that you're doing well as a business. Like you're providing something that is of value to people more than one time. Like you're not a con or a scam or some sort of like flash in the pan type situation. So the lifetime value of the customer tends to matter a lot to me, just to give the business a litmus test that they should exist. So
yeah. And that's a dollar value, right?
Yep.
And that's calculated by just like all time, how much they have spent with your e-commerce company.
Yeah, that's correct. So, okay. I think each customer has their own specific lifetime value, and then you can also do a report on like what's your average lifetime value of the customer. So,
okay, cool. And then I know from a little bit of experience, there's a little bit of marketing that you can tie into the back end as well, right? To be able to see like a condensed or consolidated view of if you're running Facebook ads, Google ads, to see what percentage of your traffic is coming from each of those. Is that right? I know I'm not a marketing guy.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, for sure. There's kind of like an abbreviated view. Obviously, I think Facebook analytics and Google analytics, they like to explain to you ad nauseum of like how important their products are for your business. So those Facebook and whatever advertising platform you use, they have more in depth. But in Shopify, yeah, they have like, hey, there's either a tracking code or some sort of pixel, like with Facebook, that says, okay, this person hit our page or pixel thing first, and then they came to your site, and then they spent money. So you should spend more money with us. That's basically the argument I think that Facebook's trying to make, or Google's trying to make, is spend more money with us because we're bringing you more money. But yeah, I think it's a great overview of just saying like, hey, some of our traffic can be attributed to efforts elsewhere.
Yeah. Cool. Well, and then I guess the only other thing that came to my mind, and then we can talk about also any other notes that you guys have come up with over at your team. I want to talk about just any areas improvement. Like if someone's going to go in and start using Shopify, I've got one specifically on my mind, but like what's something that they might expect to be like, man, Shopify could definitely improve on that, so that they know, someone knows going in, okay, this is what I should expect from this. Is there anything that you see that Shopify really needs to like improve upon?
Yeah, well, I don't have something maybe today, but like 2 months ago, they were really struggling with like net terms. and they have a new feature that helps in that terms. So I'll just give a small shout out to Shopify. I know they're not listening, but like it seems like they really do care about their customers' feedback, and they try to continue to push the envelope on like ways to best serve their customer base. And with that new feature, it's great. You know, you can do some draft ordering or some custom checkout where you can allow customers to you can create orders and allow customers to pay later. You know, simple in that terms, the type situation. But previously, I was having to do that either through like a QuickBooks or some other accounting software, or you know, keep track of it manually, which is a really bad idea.
Yeah.
But that's one feature where I think Shopify was pretty weak, and they're trying to put some steps into making that right. So
Okay, so what I was thinking about is like from a customer service standpoint, I've got an issue with Shopify. In my experience, it seems like there's not been a great, let's just say, number to call and speak with someone to help me fix my problem. Do you have a specific solution that you like would suggest people go down and do this, like to get a hold of? Or should people go seek out third-party consultants to help them answer their questions about Shopify that maybe they're not getting the support from the actual product? Do you even see that issue? Let's start there. Do you see that as an issue with Shopify, the customer service part?
yeah, that it's a huge issue. It's so much of an issue that I forgot that Shopify had customer service. So like, I mean, as our team, you know, we're just like, there's really no one we can go to. We might have a point person, and this is even at the developer level. Like we might have one person that we can go to, and we might be able to get help sometime, but oftentimes it's like we just have to know like how Liquid works, which is their language for their theme, or just how development works in general. You know, it's oftentimes the community that's solving things and pushing Shopify forward even more so than Shopify themselves. So I would definitely go a third party route. But I don't really have any good ones to recommend right now. I just know some like freelancers here and there that know actually what they're doing, but outside of that, I don't think there's very many businesses that look to support the Shopify community at large. So
yeah. Well, I've heard that often. So if you're out there and you really know Shopify well, it sounds like there's a market for your services. So that's just a little plug. But yeah, I think those were most of my questions to go over with you. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty simple if you were to go in and start setting things up. I'm assuming you can just kind of figure that part out. You don't really need like to hire a specialist to set up your Shopify with your products and services or whatever, or I guess just products, right? It's more when you get into the nitty gritty, like if something just not working for a specific SKU or something, right?
Yeah, I would say that that's generally correct. I kind of like, as I was talking to our developer team, just kind of like about this, and I was like, hey, is there anything that you guys want me to bring up? And our CTO kind of went into this long spiel of like how she used to make custom e-commerce websites, and she was charging, you know, many thousands of dollars to make these sites. And they're great. I mean, they're quick, you know, they have what you need. But the thing that she wanted to point out is she was like, you know, every single feature that you want to add on to that site increases the cost to whomever I'm building the site for. She was like, for me to build a custom checkout solution, you know, that comes out of the box for Shopify. You know, when you hit shop or checkout on any Shopify site, that's built in to their base price. She's like, if I were to build that alone, you know, it'd be $2,000-$3,000, you know, and it probably wouldn't be as good as what Shopify has. So the reason I get into that is just to say that like even people that are really good at developing, like Shopify has created something that is so powerful and affordable that there really is just no barrier to entry. You know, to trying to start your own store. And then, our CTO went on to say, like, the next time someone asked me to build them a store, I just built them a Shopify store. Like, I just did that on Shopify. It saved me a ton of, heartache and time, and it saved them a lot of money. So there is a specific language that Shopify is written in. There's a lot of people that know that coding language really well. So if you're looking for something really custom, you can hire out. But the out of the box Shopify really does a lot for anyone looking to get in a small business e-commerce store.
Cool. Okay. Well, I guess, did you have any other things that you wanted to chat about with Wholesale Gorilla specifically, or anything else that you and the team had talked about that you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, I think that those, we kind of covered them as we were talking, and the biggest thing right now is just our team is just all in on Shopify. Compared to other apps, a lot of our teams out in Seattle, they're with the tech world. They have their kind of finger on the heartbeat of what's going on, and it's just a great time to get involved. We were talking, I guess, yesterday, and I don't know, maybe cynically, but our main technical developer sent over an article, and it was just side by side stocks of Amazon versus Shopify. And even though the dollar amount isn't as comparable, the growth of Shopify was just far surpassing that of Amazon, the biggest e-commerce giant in the world. And wow. I think that just goes to show that Amazon's great. I use Amazon. It provides some really convenient things for life, but I think at least the consumer base is really looking for these people, these stories, these personalities that built their own stores. They're looking for those individual things, not the tech giant that is Amazon. So I think it's time. I think if you're on the fence about starting a e-commerce store, even if it's just selling a few things or as a hobby, now's the time to do it. And I'm going to selflessly plug Jordan that he could be your CPA. So
yeah, I definitely think if you are out there and you're still only doing brick and mortar, it's certainly time to take a hard look in the mirror and say, I'm really missing out on everything that happens on the web. I still can't even wrap my head around how many people are just around on the internet that are looking for what you have. And we used to live in a world where they had to walk by your store physically. Then it became a thing of, you see them on Google Maps. Now it's literally, you can give them a whole experience. Obviously not exactly like walking into your store, but you can give them a lot better experience than you ever, used to be able to. So definitely put that out as a challenge. And then, if you're listening to this whole conversation, I think you walk away with, there's still a lot of kinks to be worked out. And so I think, speaking up, I know for a fact Shopify has a really awesome community forum where people are on there and they're speaking about different things, whether it's a solution that someone needs to build or good things, whatever. So I know that if you see something specifically that's not working, you can go on to that Shopify community forum, speak up there. Or if you're out there and you are, wanting to join a cool team that's trying to provide solutions. Wholesale Gorillas, you guys are specifically focused on wholesale, I assume, not necessarily B2C. But all I'd say, there's tons of opportunities if you wanted to go work in the space to build on top of Shopify. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Do you have any other closing remarks?
Yeah, one thing I will say is just for those people that are kind of maybe on the fence, and they're like, $30 a month is too good to be true. I will say that you're probably a little bit right in that. Usually you're going to have to add a few different apps to accomplish all that you want to accomplish, just as a business with an online presence. without having to do everything manually. So I would say that like on average, with Shopify and a couple of different apps, people are usually paying, $200 or less for Shopify to do everything that they want to do as a business. So I just kind of want to get that out there so people aren't like, oh man, now I have to pay for another app or another add-on. It's like, yeah, you probably, it'd be fair for you to have maybe 5, 6, 7 different apps, but they're all, created in Shopify and they're working well together. And, if you had to create a custom or pay for a custom solution that did that, it would be in the tens of thousands of dollars. And you just, it just shows you how quickly you can get up to speed with the rest of the world. So,
yeah. Plus, if you think about it, if you were going to go open up a second physical location, all the costs involved in that, and then think about the monthly cost, just that alone, right? The rent. Are you paying less than $300 a month for your rent? Probably not. So it's definitely, you're getting a lot more eyeballs on your site for a lot less money, even if you're spending, even $500, $1,000 a month, you're coming out ahead. So cool. Well, I hope that was all very helpful. I hope we answered some questions that were on people's minds. If you have any additional questions about Shopify, any integrations that are specific to your company, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Obviously, I'm not a Shopify expert, but I know people like Bronson, and try to surround myself with people who know things that I do not know. So I would do my best to try to find the solution to your problem. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.